Billionaire secretly recorded the maid poisoning his drink. What he did next shocked everyone. The glass trembled as the spoon circled, crimson liquid catching the morning light like a warning flare. In the reflection of the polished marble island, a tiny red dot blinked, recording. He stood frozen in the doorway, breath shallow, heart pounding so loudly he was certain it would betray him. The woman he trusted with the keys to his home, the silence of his mornings, the safety of his nights, leaned over his favorite tumbler and tipped a measured pinch from a folded paper into the drink. The spoon clinked. The poison dissolved. And the billionaire realized with bone-deep certainty that the danger wasn't outside his walls, it was already inside. He didn't move. He didn't shout. He didn't stop her. His fingers tightened around the phone as he captured every second, the careful glance over her shoulder, the practiced calm, the way she wiped the rim clean as if erasing a crime. Fear surged, then something colder replaced it. Calculation. If he interrupted now, the truth would scatter like smoke. If he waited, it would harden into proof. He didn't move. He didn't shout. He didn't stop her. His fingers tightened around the phone as he captured every second, the careful glance over her shoulder, the practiced calm, the way she wiped the rim clean as if erasing a crime. Fear surged, then something colder replaced it. Calculation. If he interrupted now, the truth would scatter like smoke. If he waited, it would harden into proof. The maid straightened, set the glass where he always reached for it, and walked away. The camera kept rolling. So did his plan. Victor Halle had built an empire by noticing what others missed. Micro shifts in markets, silences in boardrooms. The half-second hesitation that betrayed a lie. He had survived hostile takeovers and whispered threats, but nothing prepared him for betrayal brewed in his own kitchen. He replayed the footage twice. No doubt remained. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Victor locked the phone, slid it into his pocket, and poured the drink down the sink, every red ribbon spiraling away like a decision finalized. He rinsed the glass, set it back where it belonged, and leaned against the counter until the shaking passed. Panic would make him sloppy. Sloppy would make him dead. The maid Elena had worked for him for 3 years. Efficient, quiet, invisible in the way the best staff learn to be. She knew his routines, the time he woke, the supplements he took, the days he skipped breakfast, the exact brand of water he preferred. She knew the cameras too, or thought she did. Victor had installed a second layer months ago, not because he suspected her, but because suspicion was his default posture. The small lens in the doorframe, disguised as a screwhead, was his insurance. It had just paid out. He called his head of security, Marcus, and spoke in code. Cancel the afternoon. Initiate protocol, Blue. Alone. There was a pause. Confirmed, Marcus replied. Are you safe? For now, Victor said. And Marcus, no police. Not yet. Victor changed into a dark vest and tie, his hands steady now. He wanted answers before he wanted arrests. Who had sent her? Why today? And what did they think they would gain by killing a man whose death would trigger 1,000 audits and a dozen wars? He walked to his study, sealed the door, and opened a file he'd hoped never to use. The file contained names, rivals, partners, former lovers, family. Every person with motive enough to turn his home into a battlefield. Elena was the key. And keys could open doors or lock them forever. At noon, Victor rang the bell that summoned staff. Elena entered with her usual composure, eyes lowered, posture perfect. If guilt lived in her, it hid well. Coffee? She asked. Victor smiled. Yes, the usual. He watched her move. The small details. The way her shoulders tightened as she turned away. The way her left hand hovered near her apron pocket empty now, he noticed. He thanked her and waited until she left the room before pushing the cup aside. The hours crawled. Victor made calls that sounded ordinary but weren't. He canceled meetings. He delayed flights. He invited exactly one guest, his lawyer, then rescinded the invitation 10 minutes later. Misdirection was a language he spoke fluently. At dusk he acted. "Elena," he called, standing at the foot of the stairs. "Could you come here?" She descended, face neutral. "Yes, sir." "I need help with something," he said. "In the kitchen." She followed. The mansion swallowed their footsteps. Victor reached the island and gestured to a chair. "Sit." Her eyes flicked up, surprise cracking the surface. She sat. He placed his phone on the counter, screen down. "I want you to tell me about your sister." Elena's breath caught. "Just once." Victor turned the phone over and tapped play. The kitchen filled with the soft, damning music of the spoon against glass. Elena watched herself poison his drink. Watched herself glance toward the doorway. Watched herself wipe the rim clean. Her face drained of color. "I can explain," she whispered. Victor raised a hand. "Explain carefully." Silence stretched. The mansion listened. "They said it wouldn't kill you," she said finally, tears streaking now. "They said it would make you sick. Long enough to sign something. They have my sister. She's in a clinic overseas. They control her treatment." Victor's jaw tightened. "Who?" Elena shook her head, sobbing. "I don't know names. Only messages, drops. They showed me proof, if I refused." Victor stopped the recording. The room fell quiet. He believed her. Not because he was kind, but because fear had a specific cadence, and she was playing it note perfect. "You made a mistake," he said calmly, "but you're not my enemy." She looked up, stunned. "My enemies hide behind people like you," Victor continued. "And they think I'll react predictably." He slid a folder across the counter. Inside were photos. Bank records. A contract unsigned. A map. "I'm not calling the police," he said. "I'm not firing you. I'm not turning you in." Elena stared. "Why?" "Because," Victor said, voice low, "I'm going to let them think you succeeded." Her eyes widened in terror. "You can't." "I can," he said, "and I will. You're going to help me." He explained the plan in careful steps. A staged illness. Controlled symptoms. Medical records forged by the best. Public silence. Private panic. His rivals would move fast, confident the poison had worked. They would reveal themselves. "And my sister?" Elena whispered. Victor met her gaze. "I'll get her out tonight." Tears spilled freely now. Gratitude, fear, hope tangled together. "But understand this," Victor added. "If you betray me again, there will be no second chances." She nodded, shaking. "I swear." Victor extended his hand. After a beat, she took it. That night, headlines whispered of a billionaire suddenly hospitalized. Stocks dipped. Rivals smiled behind closed doors. Phones buzzed with coded congratulations. And in the shadows, Victor Hawley watched the trap begin to close. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and quiet fear. Machines hummed with disciplined indifference, their lights blinking in patterns Victor had memorized within minutes. He lay pale beneath crisp sheets, and 4 taped to his arm, a heart monitor tracing obedient peaks and valleys. To the outside world, Victor Hawley was gravely ill. To the men watching from the dark corners of the financial world, he was dying right on schedule. Only 3 people knew the truth. Marcus stood near the window. Suit immaculate, eyes scanning the reflection in the glass more than the city beyond it. Elena sat stiffly in a chair by the door, hands folded so tightly her knuckles had gone white. A doctor entered, Dr. Rowan, private, discreet, and worth every cent Victor paid him to be silent. Rowan checked the chart, then leaned close, voice barely audible. "Blood work looks convincing. Fever's up. pulse irregular enough to sell it. Victor allowed his eyes to flutter open, just enough. How long until they bite? Marcus glanced at his phone. They already are. 2 shell accounts just moved funds. One of them belongs to Kessler Group. Victor's lips twitched into the ghost of a smile. Adrian Kessler, former partner, current rival, and a man who believed patience was for losers. He always did hate waiting. Elena swallowed. They messaged me again, she said quietly. They want confirmation. Victor's gaze sharpened. And you'll give it to them. Fear flashed across her face. What if they suspect? They won't, Victor cut in. Because people who believe they've won stop looking for traps. He nodded to Marcus. Send the photo. Marcus tapped once. Somewhere far away, a message was delivered. Victor Hawley, unconscious, pale, a breathing tube in place. The bait dangled. Within an hour, the second hook set. Across the city, in a glass-walled office overlooking the river, Adrian Kessler studied the image with satisfaction. He swirled a drink he didn't bother to sip. Finally, he murmured. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered without hesitation. It's done, said the voice on the line. Your investment paid off. Kessler smiled. Good. Then we proceed. He hung up and turned to his assistant. Prepare the documents. I want Hale's logistics division transferred by morning. The assistant hesitated. If he recovers, he won't, Kessler said flatly. And even if he does, it will be too late. Confidence filled the room like perfume. Miles away, Victor listened to Marcus relay every word through a secure feed. He closed his eyes again, letting the performance continue. But beneath the calm, tension coiled. Because while Kessler had taken the bait exactly as predicted, something else had surfaced, something Victor hadn't planned for. Another player. That night, Elena was escorted from the hospital through a private exit. Marcus drove. No words were exchanged until the car crossed the bridge and the city lights thinned. Your sister is alive, Marcus said at last. We confirmed her location. Elena's breath hitched. Where? A clinic outside Prague. Not exactly legal. But we have assets nearby. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. Relief so sharp it hurt. But there's a complication, Marcus continued. The people holding her weren't working solely for Kessler. Elena stiffened. What do you mean? There's another financier involved. One who didn't wait for confirmation. One who ordered a contingency. The car slowed at a red light. Marcus turned to her, face grim. Someone else wants Victor dead regardless of the plan. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. Then we have to stop this. Tell him. We already did, Marcus said. Which is why you're going somewhere safe. Safe? She echoed. Marcus's eyes met hers in the mirror. As safe as it gets when billionaires start killing each other. Back at the hospital, Victor stared at the ceiling long after Marcus left. The revelation gnawed at him. A second enemy meant a second angle of attack and unpredictability. He requested a tablet. A nurse hesitated, then complied. Victor pulled up his internal network, fingers flying with practiced ease. Names, transactions, patterns. He hunted the anomaly. Then he found it. A slush fund routed through a charity, offshore. Old money. Subtle. Donovan. Victor whispered. Charles Donovan had once been a mentor. The man who taught Victor how to weaponize patience. And the man Victor had quietly outgrown. Donovan didn't play games. He ended them. Victor exhaled slowly. If Donovan believed Victor was weak, the strike would come soon and hard. He closed the tablet just as a nurse entered. Mr. Hawley? You have a visitor. Victor frowned. I didn't approve. The nurse stepped aside. Adrian Kessler walked in. Sympathy etched across his face like a carefully rehearsed role. Victor almost laughed. Kessler approached the bed, hands clasped. Victor, I heard. I wanted to see for myself. Victor forced his voice thin and tired. Adrian, you shouldn't be here. And miss the chance to say goodbye? Kessler said softly, their eyes locked. Predator to predator. I'm sorry, Kessler continued. Despite everything, I never wanted it to end like this. Victor coughed weakly. You always did like clean hands. Kessler smiled. And you always did like control. He leaned closer, voice dropping. Rest now. Things will be taken care of. Victor watched him leave. The door closing with a soft click. The moment they were alone, Victor's expression hardened. Marcus, he murmured into the concealed mic at his collar. We're accelerating. A pause. Because of Kessler? No, Victor said. Because Donovan won't wait. Silence. Then, understood. Victor stared at the darkened window. City lights flickering like distant stars. Two enemies believed he was dying. One of them was about to learn how wrong they were. Asterisk. The first move came at dawn. Victor felt it before he saw it, the subtle shift in the hospital's rhythm. Footsteps changed cadence. Voices lowered. The kind of quiet that didn't belong to night, but to intention. His monitors still beeped faithfully, his charts still screamed critical, but the lie had begun to attract teeth. Marcus's voice crackled faintly through the concealed earpiece. We have movement. 2 floors down. Private security, not hospital staff. Victor didn't open his eyes. Donovan? Signature matches, Marcus replied. Professional. No wasted motion. Victor's jaw tightened. Donovan never sent amateurs. That meant this wasn't a warning, it was an ending. Proceed with phase black. Victor whispered. Phase black had never been meant to be used. It was the nuclear option. The contingency Victor designed for a world where every mask fell away and survival depended on speed and sacrifice. It meant abandoning the slow trap meant for Kessler and exposing pieces Victor had hidden for years. Within seconds, the hospital's private elevator stalled between floors. Power flickered, not out, just unstable enough to trigger protocol confusion. Nurses were redirected. Doctors locked out. Entire wings sealed under the guise of a system fault, and in Victor's room, the lights dimmed. The door slid open without a knock. 2 men entered. Black suits. No insignia. Calm faces that had seen death too often to respect it. One raised a suppressed pistol. Victor opened his eyes. Gentlemen, he said hoarsely. You're early. The shooter froze. No. One ever expected the dying man to. Speak. Victor pressed the button hidden beneath his mattress. The glass wall behind the men shattered inward as a concussive charge detonated, not lethal, but disorienting. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the room. The second man turned just in time for Marcus to slam into him from the side, driving him into the floor with brutal efficiency. The first fired blindly, the shot tearing through equipment instead of flesh. Victor rolled from the bed, movements slower than his prime, but precise. He grabbed the drop pistol and leveled it with both hands. Tell Donovan, Victor said coldly, that he's lost his touch. The man lunged. Victor fired once. The body hit the floor. Silence followed thick. Heavy, irreversible. Marcus stood, chest heaving. You okay? Victor nodded, eyes fixed on the blood creeping across sterile tile. Now he knows. Knows what? That I'm no longer pretending to die. By noon, the story broke. Billionaire Halle survives assassination attempt in private hospital. Markets trembled. Stock prices whiplashed. Kessler's acquisition stalled mid-transfer. Contracts suddenly frozen under emergency. Injunctions Victor had filed weeks ago, documents that only activated if his heart, monitor flatlined or an attempt on his life was recorded. Kessler watched the news in disbelief. That's impossible, he snapped, throwing a glass against the wall. I saw him. He was finished. His phone rang. This time, he hesitated before answering. Adrian, Victor's voice said calmly. You should have waited. Kessler's face drained of color. You how? I gave you a chance, Victor continued. To walk away. You didn't. I was told. You were lied to, Victor said. Just like you tried to lie to me. The line went dead. Across the city, panic replaced arrogance. Donovan reacted differently. He sat in his study, watching the same broadcast, fingers steepled. When the reporter mentioned the failed hit, a slow smile crept across his face. So, he murmured, you've learned. He reached for an old phone. No smart features, no tracking. One number saved. Release the leverage, Donovan said when the call connected. All of it. Victor's world began to burn. Anonymous tips flooded regulators. Old lawsuits resurfaced. Former allies were suddenly cooperative with prosecutors. Media outlets received documents questioning Victor's past acquisitions, his philanthropy, his silence. The narrative shifted from victim to monster in hours. Marcus slammed a file onto the table in the safe house. He's trying to drown us. Victor scanned the headlines without blinking. Let him. Victor, this is serious. If half of this sticks... It won't, Victor said. Because it's incomplete. He looked up. Where's Elena? Elena stood in a small room halfway across the world, staring at her sister through a pane of reinforced glass. Alive. Thin. But alive. Her hands trembled as she pressed them against the barrier. She'd be released once the final transfer clears, the handler said. You've done well. Elena turned slowly. The deal was freedom. And you'll have it, the man replied. After one more thing. He slid a tablet across the table. On it, Victor. Alive. Walking. Eliminate him, the handler said. Or your sister stays here forever. Elena's heart shattered into cold fragments. That night, Victor stood alone on the balcony of the safe house. City stretching beneath him like a circuit board of light and shadow. He felt the weight of every move pressing down, every life tied to his decisions. Marcus approached quietly. We traced the handler. Private intelligence. Front company funded by Donovan. Victor nodded. He's forcing convergence. There's more, Marcus said. Elena hasn't checked in. Victor turned sharply. What do you mean? She missed her window. Phone's dark. For the first time in years, real fear cracked Victor's composure. Find her, he said, voice steel-wrapped panic. Now, Elena sat alone in the dim room, the tablet glowing in front of her. Victor's face frozen mid-step, alive, dangerous, unforgiving. She whispered, I'm sorry. Her finger hovered over the confirmation button, and then her sister screamed out. Elena spun as alarms blared. Smoke poured in from the hallway. Chaos erupted outside the glass. A voice boomed through speakers. This is a private extraction. Stand down. Marcus's voice cut through her earpiece. Elena, listen to me. Do not press anything. We're coming in hot. Tears streamed down her face as gunfire echoed. The glass shattered. And everything collided. Victor watched the live feed as Marcus's team stormed the facility. Precision and fury intertwined. Elena was dragged free, her sister carried behind her. Both alive. Donovan's leverage evaporated in real time. Victor exhaled for the first time in hours. But he knew the truth. This war was no longer about survival. It was about ending it. He turned from the screen. Eyes dark, resolve absolute. Prepare phase white, he said. Marcus stiffened. That means exposure, Victor finished. For everyone. Including me. Outside, the city slept, unaware that by morning, empires would fall. Asterisk phase white did not begin with explosions, arrests, or headlines. It began with silence. At exactly 3:47 a.m. Every secure server Victor Hawley had quietly prepared over the past year unlocked itself. No alarms, no warnings. Just a chain reaction of truth released into systems that had been built to bury it. Encrypted files flooded international watchdogs, financial regulators, human rights organizations, and intelligence agencies across 6 continents. Each packet carried the same signature: immutable, verifiable, impossible to discredit. Victor Hawley. Inside a soundproof room with bare white walls, Victor sat alone in front of a single camera. No suit, no watch, no symbols of wealth. Just a man who had finally stripped himself down to accountability. When the red recording light blinked on, the most powerful billionaire on earth inhaled once and began. My name is Victor Hawley, he said calmly. And everything you think you know about power is incomplete. Within minutes, the video went live. Across the world. Screens flickered. Newsrooms froze mid-broadcast. Stock exchanges halted trading as analysts stared in disbelief at what was unfolding. Victor spoke without drama, without anger. That terrified people more than rage ever could. For 27 years, he continued, I operated within systems that rewarded moral flexibility and punished conscience. I told myself I was not responsible for outcomes, only for efficiency. That was a lie. He detailed covert market manipulations designed to bankrupt ethical competitors. He explained how political instability had been monetized, how humanitarian crises had been leveraged for profit, how assassinations were disguised as financial failures. He did not spare himself. I funded operations that ended lives, Victor said plainly. Not with a gun, but with silence. And silence kills just as efficiently. As he spoke, documents appeared beside the video: bank transfers, recorded calls, contracts stamped with government seals. Each revelation synchronized with his words, like a courtroom presentation designed for the entire planet. Names followed: executives, politicians, generals, Adrian Kessler, Marcus Donovan. Each name hit like a detonation. Adrian Kessler was in his private penthouse. When his phone began vibrating nonstop. At first, he ignored it. Then the alerts escalated: bank freezes, emergency injunctions, revoked protections. His assistant burst into the room, face drained of color. They know everything, she whispered. Kessler lunged for his secure terminal, only to find it locked. His offshore accounts gone. His legal shields invalidated. His allies silent. On the screen above his city skyline, Victor's face stared back at him. I learned from you, Victor said in the broadcast. And then I learned better. Kessler collapsed into a chair, breathing fast. For the first time, money could not save him. Marcus Donovan lasted longer. He always did. Inside his fortified estate, Donovan watched intelligence feeds scroll by with practiced detachment. He had survived coups, sanctions, wars. This, he believed, was another storm. Until his own classified files began airing covert operations. Proxy conflicts. False flag events rewritten in his handwriting. His hands trembled not from fear, but disbelief. This isn't possible, he muttered. His phone rang. Victor Hawley. Donovan answered slowly. You always were ambitious. This isn't ambition, Victor replied. It's responsibility. You think confession makes you righteous? No, Victor said. It makes me finished. Moments later, The estate's perimeter alarms activated. Multinational arrest warrants approved within hours due to overwhelming evidence were already in motion. As agents breached the gates, Donovan realized something horrifying. Victor hadn't attacked him. Victor had ended him. Elena watched the broadcast from a quiet hospital room. Her sister slept peacefully beside her. Monitors steady, fear finally absent from her breathing. Elena's hands were clenched so tightly they ached. He did it, she whispered, when Victor began naming himself his crimes, his profits, his guilt. Elena broke down. He wasn't saving himself. He was destroying himself. When the video ended, the world erupted. Markets crashed, then stabilized under emergency reforms. Governments resigned. Courts convened overnight. Entire industries were forced into transparency by sheer exposure. And Victor Halle vanished. He did not flee. At noon the following day, Victor walked into a federal courthouse without lawyers, without security. Without hesitation, cameras flashed as he surrendered. "Why turn yourself in?" a reporter shouted. Victor stopped. Because truth without consequence is just another lie. Inside the courtroom, the charges took hours to read. Conspiracy, racketeering, complicity, financial, crimes beyond scale. The judge looked at him gravely. "You understand you may spend the rest of your life in prison?" Victor nodded. "I understand. What do you request?" "Nothing," he said. "Only that it ends here." Prison stripped Victor of everything except time. Days became quiet. Nights long, but something unexpected happened. The threats stopped. The nightmares faded. For the first time in decades, no one needed anything from him. Months later, a letter arrived. Inside was a photograph. Elena, her sister, standing on a beach, laughing, alive. On the back, "You didn't just expose them. You stopped it." Victor pressed the photo to his chest. He wept not for himself, but for the man he could have been sooner. Years passed. Victor Halle became a case study taught in universities, intelligence academies, ethics seminars. The billionaire who dismantled his own empire. The criminal who refused immunity. The man who chose consequence over comfort. Elena founded an international transparency foundation. Using seized funds Victor had voluntarily redirected. Laws were rewritten. Safeguards hardened. Systems designed to fail quietly were forced into daylight. During an interview, a journalist asked her, "Was Victor Halle a hero?" Elena paused. "No," she said. "Heroes save others without paying the price." Then what was he? A man who finally paid it. On a quiet afternoon, sunlight spilled through the narrow prison window as Victor sat on his bunk, older now, thinner, peaceful. He had lost everything. And in doing so, he had given everything back. For the first time in his life, Victor Halle no longer feared the truth. He had already lived it.